Hello and welcome along to the first Westminster Roundup of 2021. A happy new year to all of our members and all of our viewers, and a happy new year also to the Alliance's Public Affairs Lead, Ryan McCulloch.
Hello, mate. Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Rested after the short break. Hopefully you are too, but I guess 2020's rolled into 2021 in many ways, and it's been an unpredictable start to the year.
Yeah, I don't know if resting is the right phrase when the Parliament was recalled twice in the space of a week over Christmas, and we had a Brexit deal which will come on till Christmas Eve, so it wasn't exactly the most relaxing of Christmases, I would say, but good to be back and feel refreshed.
Yeah, and it was certainly a case of hitting the ground running. It didn't take too long for the national lockdown restrictions to be re-implemented following a rise in COVID-19 cases across the country. Obviously a massive impact on many sectors, including our own, but with a focus on sport and physical activity. What do these latest set of restrictions mean for our members, Ryan?
Yeah, so obviously, as you say, Alex, it was probably not, probably the worst kept secret really over Christmas was that we were going to go into this national lockdown, and first day back for everybody, the regulations were announced. What it means for our sector is that we are back into a very strict nationwide lockdown, and I think people are pretty much used to this from the first lockdown and to an extent the November lockdown, which was similar to the March lockdown of last year and this lockdown. But essentially you can only leave home for 5 reasons. So that is for work, for volunteering, to escape harm, to shop for essentials. Obviously only essential shops are open, and more kind of salient to our sector is for exercise. And you can exercise on your own with your household or support bubble, or with one person from another household at a distance of 2 meters. If you cannot do it 2 meters, then you must take precautions at a meter and a mask, etc. At that distance. You can travel to public spaces, but nearby. You shouldn't travel too far for exercise, and you can only exercise in public spaces. I suppose it's important that exercise has been recognised as a reason again. It was the first time because of the case we made, and I think the government are aware that it's important. So that is something to draw on. Obviously, for our sector, it's disappointing to see that all sports facilities, both indoor and outdoor, are closed, except for some exemptions for very young children and people with disabilities. I think what I would say there is, while that is extremely disappointing, and we want sport and physical activity and facilities to be up and running as soon as we can, I think it's fairly obvious that we're in a period of quite bad transmission with this new variant of the virus. And as a sector, I think if we are all in this together, we need to accept that we have to do our bit. As a sector, we will be making the case to open as soon as possible when we can. But for now, at least, there is the opportunity for people to exercise in public spaces. One of the things we want to get clarity on is the level at which you can exercise. So you can exercise once a day. You can go to a public space and exercise, but you cannot go to a public space for leisure, which we take to interpret as picnics, but we don't want there to be any confusion between some of the recreational activities that our members do and things like picnics or gatherings for socialising, which are not allowed. So we have asked DCMS, we haven't had a reply yet, just to clarify that, to make sure that exercise can include as many of the activities and sports in our membership as possible.
And that's really important, this clarification process that we're currently in at the moment. I know that the Alliance's policy team are working hard and are in constant conversation with the appropriate people in government so that we can provide that assistance to our membership. Any updates we do have, we will be refreshing our website, our latest government guidance section of the COVID-19 section of the Sport and Recreation Alliance website. So please do head there for the latest news, and that will be constantly updated as soon as we have any further information for you. I guess something that we do need to remember as well, you're completely right in what you say, Ryan. This is unprecedented, is such an overused term, but we remain in those times. And if we are all in this together, we have to understand that this impacts every sector, and we're having to also argue the case to be reopened when safe to do so and when appropriate to do so. We have to remember this pandemic is affecting every area of the country at the moment. And some of the questions that our members may have are, well, when does this lockdown end for us? When can we start reopening? When can we start providing activity to our membership? What's that looking like, Ryan, and what can we say for now?
Not an awful lot, unfortunately, and I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. Boris Johnson, in his announcement, said that it wouldn't be any earlier than the 15th of February. Obviously, there's a mass vaccination rollout happening. We hope that the government will meet its target of vaccinating nearly 14 million of the most vulnerable people in our society as quickly as possible, which would give us a route to a reopening of facilities. And we hope that when that happens, sport is as near to the 15th of February as possible. That is to say, it should be high in the government's consideration, and we'll make that case, and we'll make the case for how important sport, recreation and physical activity will be in people getting healthy post this lockdown and continuing to be healthy post this lockdown. So we hope that it will be at the 15th of February, but there was some rumour, if you like, or a quotation attributed to Boris Johnson that it could be early April. So that's quite a gap. Obviously, that's, is the lockdown 6 weeks? Is it 12? We shall see, and it all depends on the vaccination programme. But hopefully, as we start to see a decline in cases and hospitalisations, we can start thinking about what sectors can reopen, and we'll make the case for ours to be first.
And we'll certainly continue to work with our peers at UK Active Youth Sport Trust, Sport England as well. Schools being closed, we know that will impact on physical activity and PE. So every demographic has been affected, and we'll continue to work with sector stakeholders to push the case for that safe reopening, and hopefully exercise and activity will be on that priority list, as has been shown by those 5 key areas of what can be done outside of the household at this time. Another concern for our membership will very much be the financials of this. More closures, more lockdowns means more loss of incomes and more support and protection required. What have the government said at the moment, which our members can access, and how they can receive additional financial support from that?
Yeah, so with the obviously announcement of a longer lockdown, as you say, huge financial concerns for our members, and the Chancellor, a fairly short statement on Twitter rather than in the House of Commons, which was recalled to pass all of this stuff into law on Wednesday the 6th. He has announced some new money under the Retail, Hospitality and Leisure grant. So organisations, many of whom are our members who were eligible for that, are eligible for new grant funding based on their rateable value. So it's up to £4,000 for those with a rateable value of under £15,000. It's £6,000 for those with the rateable value between £15,000 and £51,000, and it's £9,000 for anyone with a rateable value of above £51,000. That would be applied for, I think, through local authorities. Also, there is a discretionary fund available, and there's been a top up to. There's already been some discretionary fund money, but this is a kind of new batch of discretionary fund money, 594 million available, and we very much hope that local authorities will see local facilities and local sports clubs as a reason to get that discretionary funding. But it is distributed by local councils depending on what bit of that grant money they get, if you like. So. Happy to provide information for that, and if members have got any questions on any of the financial stuff, we'd be happy to help. Also, what will be useful to us is to get an idea of where members are. Are there any gaps? Are they accessing all of the funding that they can? Are there problems? Are there stumbling blocks? So if any of that does arise, it would be really helpful to know, because we can make the case to DCMS, who will make the case to Treasury, to see if there's anything more we can do to protect our sector going forward.
And we're understanding, speaking of that, the situation that faces many of our community sport clubs and organisations. And we're continuing to work hard in the background to gather research and evidence as to what financial assistance will be required for not just the short term, but the mid-term, the long term, to make sure that we get as many people returning to physical activity as soon as possible, and to make sure that our clubs and organisations are there to support that rush of activity when we can unlock the country further. Something our members could be doing, though, at the moment is gathering some evidence and making submissions to a House of Lords committee, which is looking at sport and recreation across the country. A little later last year, Lisa Wainwright, our CEO, had a discussion alongside some sector colleagues to the House of Lords committee to talk about sport and recreation and the future of that and how it could look. How can our members get involved in this process, Ryan?
Yep, so there's a call for evidence for that committee at the moment, a call for written evidence, the deadline for which is Friday the 29th of January, to get your ideas and questions in there. I am happy, along with the notes at the bottom of this, to put the link through to the call for evidence so members can read it. If there are any questions, let me know. But the general it's a very kind of general, broad committee across a year. And for those who will have seen Lisa's appearance before Christmas, a lot of questions about the structures of sport, how it's funded, how we increase participation, under the general heading, a national plan for sport and recreation. So the committee wants to find out if we need to change the way sport is delivered and if a national plan for sport and recreation is that delivery mechanism. Now, having spoken to some of the members of the committee, I know that they're not going in with any preconceived ideas about having one. It's just the title of the committee, and it's a very general look at how sport is delivered. I know it's difficult at the moment because of COVID-19, but COVID-19 may have highlighted some of the things that we need to fix in governance in certain sports, but in safeguarding anything. And in terms of increasing participation, how we do it post-COVID, all of those things will be salient to the committee, but this is a wider look and it was applied for before the pandemic. So they, take the questions in order, try and answer them the best you can. If you have any questions, ask me. I know a number of our members, some of our outdoor members will be appearing before the committee. I think there's going to be chances, as there's going to be meetings every week, for some of our members to be called. So please do get in touch if you want any more information or details about that.
And the deadline for submissions of that is coming up towards the end of this month. We'll put further details in the show notes, including a link to have a look at the submissions there for you. Moving away slightly from purely sport and recreation, the time has finally come, something we've been discussing for the last 2 years, Ryan, which does impact our members directly. From 11 p.m. on the 31st of December, the UK officially withdrew from the European Union and we've entered a new period. Already, we've seen questions raised across many different sectors. What should our members be keeping an eye on?
Well, we need members' help with this, really, because I haven't read the full, I must admit, I haven't read the full agreement on a future relationship because it's 1,268 pages and I did want some Christmas. But having read some of the summary notes, etc., there are some discrepancies for sport and physical activity that we have already tried to address with DCMS. But we need to know where members are having difficulties, if they're having any. Now, I would caveat that heavily at the moment by saying, particularly on the movement of people, the movement of goods, etc., events in Europe with the ongoing pandemic and travel restrictions in place, it's likely that we'll see a delay in finding out how this may truly affect, particularly in relation to that, and possibly in relation to data transfer from these events, etc. We may see a bit of a lag because people can't live their normal lives at the moment and can't have their events and can't travel. So it may be that we don't find out until spring or summer when we can start doing things, hopefully start doing things again, the problems. But if there are any immediate problems, please get in touch. We have been in contact with DCMS on a range of areas, but movement of people, we've asked a few questions about that just to clarify some discrepancies, and I won't go in too much into the technical detail of them here, but just the areas that we've asked. So movement of people, data transfers already mentioned, the recognition of qualifications, sporting qualifications, etc., and also the if there are any exemptions, if there will be any exemptions on the UK now no longer being in the Erasmus Plus programme, which I know a lot of our members and participants in their sport and activities have benefited from in the past. I think if you're already on the Erasmus programme, it's fine, but new applicants to the Erasmus aren't available to use it. But we just want to clarify around sport what the issues are there. They're the ones that we started with, and we've asked about 8 or 9 questions. But if members have got any more, then please get in touch because we are trying to feed them into DCMS as quickly as possible.
Perfect. And much in the same way with our COVID-19 guidance, once those questions do start being clarified and answered for us, we will be producing material for you and some guidance for you on the Sport and Recreation Alliance websites. But as Ryan mentioned, if you do have any concerns or any hurdles that you come across in the short term, please do get in touch with us and we'll do our best to put those to DCMS and get answers for you. It's not just been Brexit and lockdown, Ryan. There's loads more going on at the turn of the year and loads more coming up. So what's on the horizon over the next few weeks in Parliament?
Yeah, so Parliament obviously was, as I mentioned, recalled in an emergency session last Wednesday and then went back into recess until Monday the 11th. So that's when they were due back. They extended recess for a week. Parliament was supposed to be back the week beginning the 4th, but for COVID security, they added an extra week. They'll be back and they'll hit the ground running. There will be debates on COVID-19. There are a number of debates coming up on petitions. So if there are any sport petitions that reach the 100,000, 200,000 mark, they'll be debated in Westminster Hall as we go forward. We're due to have DCMS questions in early February. So there's a lot of things coming up as we head towards the budget in March. And in particular, from our point of view, I'd just ask members to look out for in the next couple of weeks an invite to the APPG. So early February, we are looking to host an APPG. We're just pulling together a couple of really important guests now. So I would say watch this space. I won't give anything away at this point, but look out for invites to the APPG. The general theme of the APPG I can give away is that we will be looking at COVID-19. We will be looking at how we use sport and physical activity to improve people's lives as we come out of this, and how we can get back to increasing participation in sport and physical activity, and what our sector needs to do that effectively. So look out for invites for that.
And that may well be one of the most crucial APPGs. They're always important and very well valued, but this is an incredibly important one this time around, and a chance to have your say and to hear from peers and from some very special speakers, hopefully as well. Once again, that will be hosted virtually. We had some fantastic pickup last year. We had a record-breaking APPG attendance, so make sure that you sign up to that as soon as you can as well for the next one, hopefully in early February. And speaking of what's coming up, the first event of the year for the Sport and Recreation Alliance will be our Fit for the Future convention in late January 27th. And again, we have a fabulous list of speakers, including Alison McGovern, our shadow sports minister. Am I right in saying that, Ryan? Just quickly. Good. Yeah. I've not lost it all over Christmas, my awareness. And Alison will be joining us on the day as well. Some other fantastic speakers as we look into the area of diversity and inclusion, an incredibly important topic that really come to the forefront in 2020, as we hear from experts in that field and hear from fellow peers across sports organisations about how we can move that conversation forward and make a tangible difference in increasing diversity in our sector. It should be absolutely fantastic. Members rate, it's around £25 a ticket for a member, or you can buy a group deal where you get 6 tickets for just £100. So you can get as many of your colleagues to join you on that session as you can. Again, all hosted virtually, a great opportunity to network whilst we're in lockdown. It should be a fantastic event. We'll put details of that in the show notes as well. Well, that's it for this episode of the Westminster Roundup. Now we're in lockdown and there are developing situations, as Ryan has touched upon. We'll be meeting a little more frequently and providing fortnightly updates with you. For now, we wish you and your loved ones all the best and look forward to talking with you again very soon. Stay healthy and look after each other, and we'll see you very soon. Take care for now.